This is visible to you all?
Coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I understand from Father, whoever's participating in this in this meeting here, you're all familiar with the incidents of violence against minorities. I'm audible, right?
Yes, continue.
Yeah. So you're all basically familiar with the issues of violence against minorities. And so I just basically just will run through them in terms of what the issues are. And just Yeah. So as you know, there are times when there have been in the last decade or so, and not that there has been no violence against minorities before, but we can see an appreciable jump. I mean, a significant jump in the kind of violence that is taking place all over the country. So one is targeted killings, the other is physical entry into minority premises and desecrating them, minority institutions, for example, or physical entry into the places of worship and desecrating those places of worship. Disruption by standing outside and chanting, when services are going on, whether it's services or whether, for example, with the Muslims, when their rosa is going on, then standing outside and chanting loudly Jai Shri Ram. Uh, so it's outside, but it's bang outside. It may be on the road and it's not part of the premises, but it's outside. So then the physical intimidation, incitement to violence, demolitions, deprivation of livelihoods, assaults and compulsion. That's also one of the newer things. Assaults and compulsion to consume cow dung, removal of cultural markers. I mean, for example, where they said that during the Christmas time they did not want people selling Santa hats or anything that is resembling. I mean, the symbolic things as far as cultural markers of Christian of
Hmm?
minorities. So these removal of cultural markers, and then blasphemous comments. So these are just, I mean, it's a long list, but I'm just trying to talk of like some of the then provocative slogans or statements. So you can see that this is just a sample list of the kinds of things that I put together. Father Anand kindly put together for me a list of the things that happened during Christmas time itself, and I was just combining it with some of the other things that I've noticed in over the last couple of years. So we can see that there are all these various kinds of incidents of violence against minorities, various kinds of situations of violence against minorities, and you are probably have seen, witnessed, or read of all of these. Now the question is, what happens as a result of this? What is the impact of this? Because when we are looking at it, why are we concerned? Of course, goes without saying, killings we are concerned, loss of life there is, we are concerned. Besides that, besides the actual fact of what happens, like a desecration or intimidation, what it creates is also, besides that specific incident for that particular person or set of persons, it's generating a sense of fear in the community. It's sowing seeds of hatred. People are being rendered shelterless with demolitions, targeted demolitions again. Uh, Poverty, people are because their livelihoods, for example, you will have uh, them putting banners that this shall not be sold, or attacking people who are for example, attacking the Muslims who are into the business of selling buff or beef. So that kind of bringing them, depriving them of their livelihoods, mental health issues that result from all this kind of tremendous trauma and stress, restricted movement. You have to think twice before going out. You have to think where you will hold a meeting, which you would have should have held comfortably somewhere, but you have to think twice about where to hold it, when to hold it, and do it on the quiet, when you should be able to do when a minority community should be able to do its meetings at any point of time. Shrinking spaces to articulate these problems and the culture of impunity that is there. So these are the impacts that it generates in not just that particular section, the particular person or the particular group that was targeted, but to the entire minority, to that particular community, and to the entire minorities when these kinds of acts are done, which are aimed at minorities. Now, so does it send the message? The message that it sends is you cannot practice your faith, you cannot propagate your faith, you cannot earn, you cannot speak, and you are demolished. I mean, I deliberately put this visual of a demolition to say, because they basically are, and you cannot be. You see, that is, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, because the entire thing is building up towards this. And we need to see the signs before it reaches, uh, I mean, proportions there where we cannot handle it. Now, these are all the constitutional rights that stand violated. You have basic rights: right to life and livelihood, right to live with dignity, right to equality, freedom of religion, rights of minorities, freedom of speech, right? Now, when we are talking of these forms of violence, these are different kinds of violence. Like, if there are targeted killings, they are one type of thing where there's a mob that comes. If there's a, in most of them, there is a mob involved in much of this, but sometimes there isn't a mob involved, but it is state supported, like demolitions. They are state supported, and they are a state supported activity. Now, the mobs that come are also supported by the state, but not directly by the state. They are what we can call non-state actors, but they have the endorsement from the state. So we have to be mindful of this distinction, because in terms of how we proceed and take steps in terms of what we are doing. Um, so coming down to the Christian response. Now, what I notice in many places is it's not happening in my backyard, it's happening in somebody else's backyard, so, or in their front yard. This happens somewhere else, it hasn't happened in mine. This is for those places where this does not happen has not happened in a significant way, or if it has not happened to the Christian community in a significant way. For instance, in Goa, there may have not been that very sharp kind of like targeted killings or something that have happened of Christians. So now in such a case, what happens is, so Christians are saying, okay, this, or riots and all, that is with Muslims. You see, that we are not concerned about it. And 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 then there's this other very passive way of responding to, and where they use the phrase "turn the other cheek" to kind of to not perform their responsibilities and their Christian obligations. Really speaking, from my understanding, is turn the other cheek means to refuse humiliation without violence, and it means to effectively disrupt the acts of the, disrupt the moves of the dominant sections. So turning the other cheek doesn't mean now you hit me on one cheek, now you hit me on the other cheek also. You see, which is, but however, sadly, this is the kind of interpretation that is largely advanced by a lot of what shall we say, in the ordinary course of things. This is the understanding that people absorb, and I think it is time. I'm starting, my opening statement is this, that we need to we need to, these basic tenets need to be explored and explained, so that the community is responsive to violence against it, and to violence against other minorities, to violence generally, to acts of to crimes against and injustice that is happening in society. Because if we do not have this basic thing about Christianity right, we will always wait. It is like, the usual Martin Niemöller's quote, that when it happened to somebody, I didn't bother because it was not me, and finally it happened to somebody else, I didn't bother because it wasn't me, and then finally when they came for me, there was nobody left to fight for me. So this is the basic thinking that I think needs to come across in basically in sermons, in various through the institutional church as well. So I think so. Therefore, what should be our response? Should we file a case? Should we seek redressal? Should we just keep quiet? Should we let it pass? Now, is it like it's a distraction? Expose, fact finding? What can the churches do? What can institutional churches do? What can the institutions within the church do? Or do we go with relief work? Do we go with interreligious dialogue? What does interreligious dialogue really mean? Sadbhav Sammelans, peace committees, Mohalla committees, advocacy, Bendi organizations. Let's look at some of this. None of these may be right or wrong. There are different circumstances under which each of these things may be strategically wise. So if you're talking of filing a case, it doesn't mean that every time something happens, you got to file a case necessarily. Sometimes it may mean strategizing, and if when there is an act of violence, of course the law making reporting to the police if there is an act of violence is important, but it may and but not always that can be the best remedy by itself. It might mean other ways of approaching the problem, other ways, and building a narrative around this, what exactly is happening. Because sometimes the moment you file a case, and say you're from a minority and filing a case, the response that comes is Hindu Katre mein hai. And then when it's Hindu Katre mein hai, then what happens is people who are otherwise liberal, even if, and generally this thing, they feel, oh, my religion is in danger. When actually it's the narrative, the way the whole thing is structured. So we need to be mindful of these narratives in terms of what we are, before we even reach the stage where these things happen. I think the good old adage of prevention is better than cure. But okay, now something has happened. So do you just keep quiet? Do you just let it pass? Sometimes, like I remember, just I live just next to a church, and I remember the people from the RSS once. They came and did an exercise just outside the church when the mass was going on, and so it was to provoke. But when they did that one exercise just outside, so the point is they didn't need to choose that place, but they chose a place just outside the church. But it wasn't too noisy, and it was like if we provoked it, it might have given it too much importance. So in such a situation, it is just let it pass. It is okay. It's not always okay, but in some situations it's okay. You have to wait and watch. Are they doing this again? Are they doing it repeatedly? You have to wait and watch and see how it is thing. Otherwise, it's you can't kind of don't give them importance. So sometimes that strategy is also good. Now there is a thing that is it a distraction? So we have had this situation and a lot of discussion around it, and it is upon each person, each community, as they face this situation, to decipher whether it's meant to distract from another issue, burning issue, or whether it's as important to deal with this, and therefore you can't say we won't deal with this because there's another burning issue. Because you might have to deal with both the things together simultaneously. The other burning issue, maybe some environmental injustice, maybe some land injustice, whatever other injustice that is happening in society and happening across communities, maybe to tribal communities or various communities, and simultaneously also address this, because it's not like you see this old system where we said we will first deal with this problem and then deal with this problem is not working. That is what we were promised at the time of independence, that first we will have independence and then we will deal with all the internal inconsistencies, internal issues. But that didn't happen. So everything needs to be plugged in together, because the map that pans out, the way life pans out, the way the law pans out, will pan out based on the engagement, that public engagement that we have. So we cannot say, okay, we will compromise on this for the sake of that. It happens, needs to happen together. So let's not always call it a distraction. Sometimes if we are conscious that the state has deliberately asked one of these extra state actor types to make a blasphemous statement, so everybody is now sitting and fighting that issue and not dealing with this, we might decide that we will not let that blasphemous statement pass, but we will not have a huge agitation. We will put our documentation in writing and continue with the other issues that we are addressing. There are times when it needs an expose there, or a fact finding followed by an expose. Uh, this has also been tried by many groups. For instance, a couple of years ago, there were these Ram Navami rallies, and one noticed that in at least 8 states in the country, there was an allegation that Muslims had pelted stones on the Ram Navami rallies that were being conducted in the country. Now, at that time, some here our organization, that is Citizens Initiatives for Communal Harmony, we thought this is very strange. I mean, so it seems like there's an organized move by the Muslims to pelt stones on Hindu rallies. So we thought, like, I mean, for people to dare to do this, so we said we must find out, because what kind of a press note? Our normal tendency is to issue a press note, but what press note would we issue if we went by this statement that we condemn the Muslims for pelting stones? So when we went on site and did a fact finding, we realized that the mosque and where the Muslims were located is so far away that they can't have pelted stones on that rally. We also realized that they changed their route during the rally. The route on which they had permission, they changed the route to pass through various places of worship, because that was about the time when also there was Rosa, and there was also Easter. Good Friday or something it was on that day. So there were services. So the thing is that now they timed it, and then when they were passing by the church, they chanted Jai Shri Ram. When they were passing by the mosque, they chanted Jai Shri Ram very loudly to disturb the services. So we could see these things. Now, there was another group. So we did a fact finding where we exposed it, because we spoke to the organizers of these rallies. We spoke to all the people, so that no one can fault us for not, talking to everyone and all sections of society also. And we found that this was actually violence by the rally people, the organizers of this rally, against the Muslim community, and they had also intended to target the Christian community, but that plan of theirs got foiled for some reason. Now, here is where, since we are all, the people here are all Christians, I want to say that we tried very hard to tell the church, to tell the local churches there, the local church there, that see, they were actually intending to target you, meaning we needn't even say this for the church to respond. We shouldn't have to say this, but we were explaining this aspect as well. But the local church just didn't respond. The church there, they when we had gone on the fact finding, they had given us inputs and feedback, and we've noted that in our fact finding report. But they didn't bother to have anything because they want to be on good terms with the MLA in the of the area who is um, uh, who is a supportive of the BJP. So the point is, this is the problem with our institutions, that they want to be on good terms, and uh, we need to as people within the church, we need to ask our institutions to respond more effectively, to respond again. This is the same situation that Martin Niemöller talked about, that it happens to others, it can tomorrow, when it happens to us, there'll be nobody to defend us. So at least for that reason, they need to respond, and somebody needs to take the initiative to work on this within the church, that the church needs to respond. And while I'm on this, I also want to say that the church has a responsibility. It hasn't got to be always, laity has also to respond. I will very definitely say that there has to be a Christian response, but the institutional church. Now, I would like to also share some other experiences. Now, for example, if you're talking of, people who have been, suppose we decide to have, let's say, dedicate a mass. We want that a mass should be dedicated to people who have died, let's say, in some such tragedy. It should be possible to have that mass on a Sunday. Now, what happens is, they there's a conflict between that mass, which is a memorial mass, which is different from a mass that is a anniversary mass or a month's mind mass, which they don't have on Sundays. At least that seems to be the practice in Goa. But it is not the same. When it's a memorial mass, it should be possible to have it on Sunday, because that many more people on Sundays come for mass on Sundays, as against a weekly mass which is held, or if a special dedicated mass is held later in the morning. So these are very practical things, that it should be possible. But the way the whole system is worked is, some church institution has to support it, like a Caritas or somebody, and then only they will have it on a Sunday and dedicate it. And if they do not come forward to agree and agree, then God help you. I mean, you can't have it on that. This kind of rigidity is seriously problematic, and the responsiveness of the priests, the local parish priests, is also. So I think this needs to be brought up with, in arrangements with the in internally with the church, with the institutional hierarchy, so that these issues need to get addressed. This is, now we are talking of the institutional church. Now there are also another set of issues of institutions within the church. I mean, institutions within the church and minority institutions. Now, here is where you find that there is an increasing incidence of right-wing persons barging into minority institutions and disrupting the activities there, questioning. First of all, minority institutions are protected by the constitution. Secondly, if they have to redress it, they cannot barge in like this and create an air of fear. The way they barge in, the way they intimidate is absolutely, so you should be able to put. The point is that institutions should be bold enough to put in, if such a barging in happens, they should be bold enough to put a representation, that to the authorities, that it's one thing. Let's say a parent teacher association wants to meet the authorities, it's different. That's a democratic process, and even if they're questioning something in the institution, we have to engage in that democratic process. So that is fine. But if they are barging in like this without following a democratic process, we have to be able to put it on a record with in our respective, by through the processes available under the education system in your respective states, or to the education department. The same thing can happen with hospitals. So this is also another area where whoever is the administration, the health or hospital authority department which is dealing with these aspects needs to be a representation needs to be made if something like this happens, or there is information that something like this will happen, so that it's the obligation of the state to protect the minority institution. Now the question is also about relief work, interreligious dialogues. Now, relief work is important, and I think there's no dispute on that. But remember that just now there are a lot of anti-conversion laws coming, and these anti-conversion, they're wrongly named as freedom of religion. It's actually curbing the freedom of religion of the minority communities. So now in these laws they talk of allurement, and this is where I think, because this relief work will also come under that, and you will not be able to do the relief work that you want to do if you are complacent, if we are all complacent about the these laws which are actually anti-conversion laws. Now I know that there could be some people who do forced conversions, but you see the way this defined, it's talking of allurement. Now see, when you are given the realities of people in the country, not everybody is getting converted because they are believing in the faith. There are a lot of people who will see the possibility of benefits of conversion. They might see the benefits in terms of getting priority admissions in the hospital, in the, or maybe some kind of other economic, some kind of benefits for the relief work that you may do, for services that you may be rendering. But the point to ask is, now where will you draw the line? You think that they are drawn to your religion. They are drawn to our religions. They are drawn to the particular minority religion. They are coming from that angle. So how will you draw the line? So the point is, even if it is that, and even if it, and then it will seem that, okay, see, they got admission. So that's an allurement. But you didn't do that for that reason. You might have, even when you're genuinely converting, and even when they have said that they're converting genuinely, there is some level of allurement involved. So the point is, we have to fight these laws, because this allurement would not work if the government had to ensure that there is no poverty, if the government had to ensure that everybody has housing. This allurement would mean nothing. Why would people convert if they are only converting not because of the faith but because of this? So I think we need to go a little deeper into these issues of conversion. How it's being defined. It means, for example, if I am a company tomorrow, the way these laws are being defined, it means that, and in some places they are already in place, in other places they are coming, in some places there are milder laws, and these versions are coming. It means that tomorrow, if somebody is sitting next to me and makes an allegation, it's not even like, if suppose I am taking a person who is not from the minority community, and I feel that I want to help that person and take that person to a hospital in wherever, okay, outside Goa, and I'm traveling by train. Now the law is such that that person is grateful to you, and they're not even converting. And there's not even any attempt to convert. That person is just grateful to you that you're taking them there. So that person will not complain. Okay. But the law is such that, as is evolving, that a third person can complain that you have converted that person, you have got that person converted, and the allurement is you're taking them to and giving them some material benefit. So you can't even reach out and do your Christian responsibilities. We can't reach out and do our Christian responsibilities. The Muslims can't reach out and do their obligations, which they feel they can do because of their religious convictions, which they want to do. they cannot do it. So it is basically threatening your very existence as a minority. So therefore, it's not at all about conversions. It's not at all about conversions. It's about not letting you practice and propagate your faith. Leave alone propagate, not even to practice your faith. So we need to be aware of the seriousness of these anti-conversion laws and be able to resist, raise these issues at various places. That a lot of jurisprudence has evolved, and today we have situations of like where the jurisprudence has evolved in the sense that a lot of you, if you find yourselves in these situations, what is your forum of choice? What is your venue of choice? What is your protection of choice? And what is the reliefs of choice that you can seek? So, forum of choice, there have been judgments which say, I mean, the famous one is the best one is the forum of choice is in terms of the courts. You can maybe file a PIL, or you might go to a criminal court, file a police complaint, or you may go to, if you choose the legal route, I mean, or you can go to quasi judicial bodies like collector, magistrate for police protection, whatever. You can go to a minority commission, human rights commission. You can go to the education department if it's that specific area, or health hospital authority. And then at an international level, there are special rapporteurs to deal with issues of minorities, and also and then there's the mechanism of preparing shadow reports under the preparing shadow reports, like alternate reports, because the country gives reports every time under various international conventions, and you can prepare a shadow report about what is happening in the country. So spelling out and saying that the country has given this report, but this is my report, this is our report. So this is also a way of doing it, or sending messages to the special, there is a special rapporteur to deal with issues of minorities. So these are the bodies to whom various forums which you can do. Venue of choice, there is this famous Best Bakery case because of the Gujarat issue, where riots, where the case was not handled in Gujarat but in another place, because of the fact that people are frightened to come and forward in the court in their state, so that there is some kind of a protection. There's a similar case like this when Jayalalitha's trial was transferred to Karnataka due to political pressures in Tamil Nadu. So that the principle is that the venue should be free from local power structures. Normally, you file a case in your place, but you kind of ask for a transfer to another place for these reasons. Okay, so there's also the thing that the courts have recognized witness protection, because one of the issues that arises when this violence is people are afraid to be stand witness. When they have witnessed it, they're afraid to stand witness. So this cases have recognized witness protection as part of Article 21. Um, as I said, there are various ways. I also want to stress on the fact that there is a need for networking and linking up and because sometimes the issue is not just an issue of minorities. There's an intersection, like issue of minorities combined with the issue of scheduled tribes, let's say, or combined with an issue of scheduled castes. So it is important, one, to link with the broader social organizations, and also to link with the organizations of those particular communities. And many times just going to the courts or the legal systems doesn't work by itself. It helps to have multiple strategies to create an awareness as to what is really happening, what is behind this, who are the forces behind this is important. The preparedness to know that there are laws also that say that peace committees need to be formed. There are judgments today which say that peace committees should be formed when there is a situation like this. So to know about those laws, to that preparedness has to be there as to what you can do to demand accountability, that you can demand accountability, and what are the various kinds of legal recourse that you can seek, whether you go to the first thing to the collector because you need police protection maybe, or to the district magistrate, that is, or to the police or whatever. So within each of these also there are multifarious. Like, you can demand accountability in various ways. You can demand accountability if the community is well organized. If you have managed to organize the community well, you can they would know that it makes their voice counts because of the numbers, maybe in terms of how many people have organized, and the community as well as its supportive networks from outside of the communities. This would also can put pressure. So there are various. Sometimes you have to do a multi-pronged strategy. Sometimes you have, for strategic reasons, and after assessing it, you have to assess your risk assessment and everything. And we have to do what we think we can do best from through our ways of meaning what we can do best given our context.